Hi everyone, welcome to It's Messy, but It's So Good. And today my guest is Zhenya Goma. And Zhenya is an intuitive and psychic and a spirit medium. And she is a former Russian professor turned writer and coach. And she uses her gifts to coach and support clients to write and prepare for publication. I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. And if you're struggling, if you have a book in you and you need some support, you need an editor, whether it's a book, any type of publication, articles, Zhenya is your girl. So enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of It's Messy, but It's So Good. And today, my lovely guest is Zhenya Goma. And she has a very vast and interesting background. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but a little bit about her. She's a former Russian professor, and she turned writer and coach, and she has an amazing company now where she helps blooming writers and established writers with coaching and editing, and she does mastermind groups. But I'm so happy to meet you and welcome to It's Messy, but It's So Good.
Oh, Fran, thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. And I'm delighted to be here to talk with you and learn more about you and talk about my own interests a little bit. It's great to be here.
Yes, and I also want to mention that you're also an intuitive and you have a psychic business as well.
I do, although my client list is very exclusive right now, I
Yes.
will admit.
Well, you focus on different things, at different times, right? And that's
Absolutely. Just like all of us. I mean, the name of your podcast resonated with me so strongly. Um, because it is messy, but it's so good. And I kind of feel like for myself, that's been my life goal, finding the it's so good part in the mess part. But what a blessing that is to be
yeah.
able to do. Absolutely. So Fran, where do you think I should start?
Well,
What
what I'd love to know is really a little bit about your journey and how you got into writing. Obviously, you were, you were a professor and you probably focused on that as part of your education, but
Absolutely.
how it took you to developing your business and, the passion behind that, like the passion and the creativity behind that, what inspired you?
Yeah. Well, it's strange. No one's path is straight, I would guess. And mine certainly hasn't been either. So I kind of have two biographies that run side by side. So I kind of have the intuitive slash psychic biography, which was often hidden for me just because of safety issues. And then I also have the official academic biography that all of us professor types have, went to grad school, went to this conference, published that paper, that kind of stuff. And often for me, the two were contradictory because as a member of the academy, I didn't feel at liberty to share with people my spiritual beliefs or my spiritual talents, really. And so it was actually one of the last places where I was a professor that I finally realized that I can't keep separating these parts of myself. It's not healthy. It's not the best way to use those gifts. And so that's when I sort of tentatively started coming out in the community as a psychic and intuitive, and I started reading people for money. At the same time, I was working as a Russian professor. So
Mhm.
it's ironic that, the Soviet Union was atheist, but Russians are very in tune with the supernatural and they have a lot of folk belief. And you can ask any Russian what their sign is, and they will know it right off the top of their head, and who they get along with and who they don't get along with. So really, probably could have been honest about it, but I just didn't. I felt it somehow made me less legitimate as a
Yeah.
scholar, and so I avoided it. And so one of the things that, as an intuitive, I was experiencing, what I would call supernatural moments from my earliest memories, and it made my parents pretty uncomfortable.
Mm.
Um, my first past life memory emerged when I was 4, um, when my mom was trying to start the shower, and I said, "No, mommy, watch out for the gas."
Oh, wow.
And can you imagine your little 4-year-old is talking about, Nazism and Auschwitz out of nowhere. I mean, it it was challenging for sure. And I got the message pretty young that mom was not comfortable with that stuff, and I didn't need to really talk about it. So I sort of shut it down until I was in high school. I think I was about 15, and I just started getting so much information I couldn't hide it anymore. All of my friends, my closest friends in high school, knew that I could do this, and I had another friend who was also an intuitive, and she and I would go and like look for ghosts and spirits and stuff like that. Um, and but it's definitely something that was private. So now to the other side, to the scholarly side, um, I wanted to study Russian. I knew in high school that I wanted to study Russian. I used to want to be a spy. That seemed very glamorous to me when I was, 15, 14. Now that I know more about global politics, I realized I would be the world's worst spy. But at the time, it seemed really glamorous. And so I started becoming interested in Russian. And so when I was in high school, I decided I wanted to do international law involving Russia. You have all these dreams before you actually go to college and have the classes and discover what you really
Yeah.
like. But I did actually really love Russian. I just realized I couldn't be a spy. And so I continued with it and eventually completed my degrees and then my master's and then my PhD. And so in a way, the psychic aspect was being ignored and pushed away. And at different times in my life, it just sort of said, "I'm here, pay attention, cut it out." Um, and
Yeah.
so uh, I found that for myself, once I had enough self-confidence, um, it enabled me to trust the information that I was getting, but I had to grow as a person before I could do that. And like many of us, as a woman, I didn't really develop the self-confidence to do that until I was already in my late 30s before I
Yeah.
started being open with it. And I didn't actually come out publicly as a psychic until I was over 40. And so like many of us women, we get to a certain age and then we have enough self-confidence and then we can be who we are. And so I'm kind of in that stage of my life right now, and I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that was interesting that I've come to understand is that those of us who are intuitive receive information all the time. Um, and we use it all the time. And we don't have to say to the person we're talking to, "By the way, the angels are telling me you need to do XYZ." And so once I made peace with that, right around at the same time, I started really realizing that the angels were doing therapy through me, and they
Mm.
were advising my students. Um, and that my students were not just the students in my class. The students were the young people that I was there to serve and work with, whether I had contact with them through a class or some kind of extracurricular club, or just people that I met, etc. And so for me, really, what I've been what I've done in about the past, I don't know, 15 years or so, is just learn to take that intuitive information, trust the angels that they're giving me the information I need. And through a variety of sort of call and response, they would call upon me to go talk to somebody. And my response would be, "I'm not going to go talk to that stranger. Are you kidding me? You're nuts. I'm not doing that." So my angels and I have this kind of debate very
Hmm.
frequently, or we used to while we were still setting up our relationship. And after enough trials like that, where they sort of set me out to go talk to some stranger, and say slightly wacky things about what they should or shouldn't do, um, I started to really trust them and realize that they knew who was going to be open to that information, and they have never steered me wrong, not one time in I don't 15, 20 years. They have they've been very clear about that. And so that's been very rewarding. Okay, so I kind of talked for a long time, so I'm going to pause. I want to
Well,
pause and give you a chance to sort of pull me back in a
sure.
direction that you would like.
Sure. Well, I just want to note that this is so common, that people have
Hmm.
certain people, well, I believe we all do have
I
these
do too.
abilities, and it's like using a muscle more or less, or having the desire to do it, or
Yeah,
obviously there's some people like you who have these very intense experiences when they're young and very commonly shut it down
right.
because it's not supported by the family or friends, or they feel uncomfortable, weird, or whatever.
Yeah,
And then for many people, it gets reopened again
yeah.
because I feel like it's like your soul is guiding you in that direction,
Oh, absolutely.
you know,
Yeah, I
because
couldn't agree
it's
more.
to help people,
Yeah.
and to help yourself. And no matter what in your life, just getting quiet,
Yes.
and really taking the time to go within, there's always the guidance that's there.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what I'd love to know is if you could share a little bit about, um, do you have any stories or maybe experiences that you had in how you've helped people through your intuitive guidance,
Sure.
particularly with writing? Because I know that your business is very focused
Hmm.
on editing, helping people, write books or articles or whatever.
Right.
Um, and you do a lot of teaching and coaching in that field. So if you could share a little bit about that, because I think people would be really interested in um, contacting you that might be stuck or maybe are hiding a little bit or isolating
Hmm.
because of self-worth issues, which, is
Sure.
very common in
Oh
any
gosh,
creative
yeah.
field, let
Hmm.
alone in life. So
Yeah.
I'll let you
Yeah.
speak to that.
Sure. Okay, so do you do you want the sort of general, applicable to to the widest audience response,
Whatever
or
whatever
do you?
you whatever's most, you know, heartfelt to you, like what
Okay.
made the impact in your life, because we wanna really harness that, like, passion and creativity
Hmm.
that I know you have for doing
Absolutely.
that work.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna let it all hang out because I believe
Let it
I
all hang out.
well, I believe you, and I believe that your listeners will appreciate the directness. So,
Mhm,
uh, so it's, as I have mentioned, it's really in the last 15 years or so that I've really claimed this ability and stepped into it fully. Um, and so during that time, I have learned to work with the angels. That's sort of the interface with spirit that works for me. I believe there are many ways to connect with spirit, but that's my way that
mhm,
works for me. And so I've come to realize that main the main angel that I work with the most is Michael,
mhm,
whom, in the way that I understand him, is kind of the anti-bully. He stands up for those who are abused. He stands up for those who are insecure, who lack self-confidence. And so my close connection with him has enabled me to really recognize and support people who are insecure or who have been abused or who are having difficulty being confident in their truth. And so my main role in the world, not just as an editor, but as a teacher, as a friend, as just a person who like walks into a hardware store and is nice to the clerk. My main world is to encourage people, support people, and validate people. And I've known that for a long time. And writing is a particular kind of challenge to people's self-confidence. And I realized very early working with students that if the student had some kind of emotional issue, it was going to interfere with the writing process. And so in a way, I became sort of a hidden therapist
Mm-hmm.
along with being a writing coach. So that's kind of my first position, is to validate and hear people's voices. But I also work closely with other angels, and I invoke them both when I'm leading a master class. So I often call them in so that we can settle down and write. And I call upon Archangel Uriel for complex thoughts. I call upon Gabriel for clarity of expression. I call upon Metatron to help with organization. I also have ADHD. And so Metatron is my super extra special helper because I don't think I get anything done without his help. And so I invoke these people to help my clients, but often they appear to me and speak to me while I'm working with a client.
Mm.
And so that is also very moving to me, when Gabriel shows up and says, this person is having difficulty expressing themselves. Can you steer them in the right direction with their language? I also have had on one manuscript, I keep the privacy of my clients, so I can't name any
Of
names or,
course.
or go into detail. I treat myself like I'm somebody's shrink in a way. It's like it's
Yeah.
confidential. I have one manuscript where the author's mother, who had already crossed over, who was a large subject of the manuscript, was appearing to me and basically dictating over my shoulder what needed to happen with the book. And there are not very many editors who are aware of this. I'm sure it probably happens more than people are aware of, but that was kind of head trippy. And the first time that spirit made herself known to me, she like poked me hard in the leg. She like crept up to me. I had been able to see her at my elbow, but I was kind of ignoring her. I like to get communication through my sleep. I don't like people to interrupt me, like when I'm with my husband or, having life.
Sure. You have to put barriers
Yeah,
down.
exactly. This lady was not, she was not accepting barriers. And she walked up to me and she's like, my daughter is dying. And I actually, at first, I'm like, okay, who is this? Who's your daughter? And I ignored her because I didn't want to talk to her. I kid you not, she poked me in the shin as hard as she could, like, hey, I'm talking to you.
Wow.
So I said, okay, yes, ma'am. Now I'm listening.
Before
Um,
you beat me up.
yeah, exactly. You have my attention, ma'am. So she continued to appear. She would sort of help me as I was working on the project. And I tell you what, her guidance was tremendous. It's a gift of spirit. I'm not gonna, you don't look a gift from spirit in the mouth. So there are lots of different ways that I help people. And one of the things that I set out for myself is I set the intention that the people who hire me will appreciate and get what I do,
Hmm.
and that people who will not don't work with me. And in some ways, I think that has probably limited the amount of business that I have. In other ways, it's meant that the relationships are so special and so clear and so uplifting for both the client and for me. And you can tell that the books that I've worked on, because many of them are what they would fall under this, what I would call new age
Hmm.
self-help type books. Um, I think that they have some messages that could really change the world and really help heal the world. And I feel so blessed to be a part of that experience.
Yeah.
And so I have just shared with you the real inside of what happens from my perspective. Some clients are aware of that. The clients who are sort of on the same frequency that you and I are
Hmm.
on,
Are open
they're
to it.
they're totally open to it. And I will actually say, Archangel Gabriel is telling you to do this.
Hmm.
It took me many years to become comfortable enough with that.
Yeah.
I would actually say things like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is what I'm getting.
Hmm.
Now I'm a lot more accustomed to it.
Yeah, a lot of it's through your
Excuse me.
experience and working with a lot of clients in that capacity, building the confidence. And I love what you said, that you work with people that resonate with you.
Mhm.
And I think that takes a while for a coach, uh,
Yeah,
or a guide or a mentor to get sometimes, especially in the beginning of when you have a business.
yeah,
But I mean, when you really think about it, how else can you do your work in a way that is really um, life-giving to you? Because
yeah.
people who don't resonate with you, they'll resonate with someone else, and that's where they belong.
That's right. Exactly. They'll
Right.
resonate with their audience. And I kind of look at it like, I look at it like all of us, we resonate to our own frequency, and the whole like attracts like
Hmm.
idea. And so, for instance, when I receive a manuscript that doesn't seem like it's a good fit for me,
Hmm.
I don't dismiss it. It just could be that that person has a different tribe that they're
Right.
speaking to, and I respect and value that. So I just try to work with whomever I can, and I'm grateful also the angels have become much more pronounced when someone is not a good fit for me.
Yes.
And they will say straight out, nope.
Hmm. Hmm.
They did that yesterday. I had an offer and they said, nope.
Yeah. Well,
So
that
I've
really saves a lot of time and energy, doesn't it?
exactly, and I'm grateful that now at this point in my life, it's something that happens to many of us women. I'm 53. I have enough self-confidence to say, nope.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
turning away money is not good, but being tortured and unhappy and having a
Oh,
bad fit is also really
absolutely.
not good either.
No,
So I'm open
absolutely.
to possibly that we can do both. We can
Yeah.
have good
Yeah.
pay and a good fit.
Well, how many billions of people are there out there in the world, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
not having that scarcity mindset
Mhm.
and really being open to what comes in, you know.
Right.
Um, yeah, it's not only a mindset, but it's also, I agree, it's also an expansion of your own energy.
Mhm.
People will connect with you, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
Um,
It's an expansion and it's an expansion, expending your own energy. And it's why make your life harder?
right.
So when that happens, with the client, I made some suggestions. I wished her luck. Y- that I
Yeah,
think that we'll be happiest.
yeah.
We'll all be happiest that way. So, shoot, there was something I was going to say. I hope it'll come back. Oh,
Well,
okay. One of the
yeah.
things that I love about this, sort of the fact that Spirit is like pre-screening people for me, is that it it gives me such a privileged position to look at people who, the work of people who are, I feel, kind of creating magic,
Mm,
laying bare the magic of spirit, and better better is not maybe the right word, more easeful, um
mhm.
m- more more fitting, more synchronous, with more synchronicities,
Yeah.
that relationship. And I find that for myself, my experience as a professor, most people wouldn't know this, but as a Russian professor, I had to create a ton of materials, worksheets, questions, and quizzes, and reading excerpts, and all kinds of stuff. So, that experience from teaching is extremely helpful with a lot of the new agey, self-help type books that many of us write and read and appreciate. And so one of the things that I love is, as an editor, I'm an intuitive. So I understand the intuitiveness of my clients. I understand our audience. I'm able to understand the variety of perspectives and spiritual experience of our audience. I get inside intuitive guidance from spirit. Um, and I'm able to use my academic writing skills and organizational skills to put it all together. And I understand it in a way that other people don't. And, for those of us who are writing, who are intuitives, first of all, a lot of us just get information. It's very hard to organize.
Yeah.
Um, and spirit is elusive. I think one of the hardest challenges is, how do you describe something as elusive and mysterious and magical as spirit or some kind of intuitive spiritual process, which I've been practicing doing. I've been practicing helping people to do that. So I think that's sort of the happy spot for me, being a mediator between spirit and the client,
Mhm.
spirit and the reader, because there's communication between both of
Yeah.
those, people and spirit, and then spirit through me telling me how to help make the other two members of this, what is it, triangle? You got the author, the
Yeah.
spirit, or author, editor, and reader. So how to make that relationship clearer and more positive and uplifting.
Yeah, that's beautiful because you have these two gifts. One is the practicality, the
Exactly.
organization. You can probably take information and even just from the left side of your brain, be able to organize it. And then on the right side, you have that intuitive,
Yeah.
spiritual, um, energetic
Mhm.
perspective. And that just seems like the perfect blend. Do you do any work with like content, information, like with businesses online, or is it mostly books?
Um, I I edit all kinds of stuff. I did
Hmm.
I did a lot of editing for the Heart School.
Yes.
In the past, both newsletters and business correspondence, different PDFs and documents for the school. So that was all pretty standard.
Hmm.
Um, I I think I have helped with website copy before.
Hmm.
I do books, I do articles. I have edited a collection of poetry. Um, Literally, pretty much, you give me a laundry list, I'll reorganize your laundry list so that is, or your shopping list, so that like it's true. My shopping list is organized according to department. So like all the dairies in one place, all the veggies are in one place. Some people might call that OCD, and they might be right, but it
As long as it
works
works.
for me.
And it's not driving you crazy.
No, nor does it
No.
seem to drive my clients crazy. So one of the things that often happens, with those of us who are intuitives when we go to write a book, is a lot of times we take our journal and we want to convert it to a book. And this is actually really challenging. It's hard when you have lived all those experiences to pick and choose which are going to be the most meaningful to the reader. And so this is kind of where I come in, because a lot of times I will get basically typed out version of journal entries,
Yeah, wow.
and then have to figure out, okay, what is the most orderly way to organize this piece. I'm working on a memoir right now, and the author, it's we have cross purposes. The author wants to recall everything more or less in chronological order because they're trying to make sure they don't miss something important.
Right.
And so in that moment, the author's purposes conflict with the reader's purposes, because the reader doesn't want to hear every single event that happened from birth until fifth grade. And so that's where I come in, kind of helping to pick and choose, okay, what's going to really support your message here, what is losing the reader, stuff
Right.
like that. And I'm not so foolish as to pretend that spirit does not help me in understanding what the reader is going to need.
Yeah.
Because I think when you're somebody who is that intuitive, sometimes it's difficult to know which ideas are from you and which are from spirit,
Hmm.
because they're all in your head. And so I just kind of
Hmm.
thank them for everything.
Right. And then you use your other skills to figure that out.
Right. That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I, I really do feel like the people that I work with are sharing their magic with the world. They're sort of in a state of, I feel like their ideas are in a state of becoming and expanding and growing. And it's just so beautiful to be privileged to see that. That book I was telling you about, where the mom who had crossed over was guiding me. That is a beautiful piece of work, and I can't wait until it's released, and I can't wait until I can say more about it. Um, but it's from a daughter, basically in honor of her mother who
Yeah,
had crossed over.
yeah, yeah.
And it's very, very powerful.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. As far as you talked about some of the challenges that you have, but let's say now, as you move through your work and you come up with an obstacle or a challenge, is there a specific, yes, you definitely use your intuitive skills and
Mhm.
gifts. Is there anything else that you could advise or guide people out there that are writing or who want to write? Um, how you move through some challenges or blocks?
Mhm. I think I think particularly it as intuitives, one of the biggest um, blessings that we have is our ability to connect with spirit. And in my experience, spirit is very, very willing and able to provide guidance if we can quiet our mind enough to listen to it. Um, and so that that's a natural resource. So if you have a question, think about your question, meditate, and then I would say take a nap. Because I
Yeah,
find
let it
that
go.
I
Right.
find that spirit does a lot behind the scenes when I'm not paying attention. In fact, spirit has told me a few times, we like it when you get out of our way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one thing. So to rein it in and be a little more worldly in my comments, one of the things that can help authors is to look and see if there are books that they like. So, for instance, if there's a book that you found really inspiring that you enjoyed, could you use a similar type of document for your work? Sometimes having a pattern is really helpful.
Hmm.
Um, that's one thing. Another thing that you could do, if you have an idea, is try to search on Amazon or Google and see if anybody else has written about your idea.
Mm.
Because that is going to come up. And if you want to publish your book, as you know, there are many different types of publishing, ranging from self-publishing on Kindle all the way to getting a giant contract from Random House. Most of the people that I work with are at the Kindle end of that. But what we're seeing is that the Kindle people a lot of times now are becoming the big contract people because their work goes viral, and they
Yeah, it's
they
different
prove,
nowadays.
yeah, they
Hmm.
prove that people are interested in the topic, so somebody bigger will take it up.
Mm.
So those are the kinds of things that people could do. Another thing that people could do if they wanted to is email me or visit my website. And I have a collection of questions that you should ask yourself before you start a book project. Like, what do I want people to get out of this project? Who would be the reader for this project? Um, those are the kinds of questions that I, as an editor, have learned to ask through
Right.
the years, that a new author especially may not have access to. So that's something that I like to give to my clients. I also, or prospective clients, actually, I don't, that's a freebie. I also offer clients a 30-minute consultation to hear about
Mm.
their project, hear about, suggest ways that I would help their project. And so that's kind of how I get started.
Yeah.
So um, again, it's always right. We got to balance spirit with the real world, and
Right.
that juggling process is hard.
Yeah,
Um,
but what I'm hearing too, and I know from my own experience, is that you're helping people move into action.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
yeah, we can just have things in our head for years and
That's right.
years. And all the other gobbledygook that goes with it too, that's not very helpful. And then when you work with someone such as yourself, all of a sudden things become more organized.
Yep,
You feel like you're not alone, that you have a
that's
coach.
right.
And that person, you, is bringing them through into small action steps so that they
Absolutely.
can build that confidence.
Thank you. You expressed it really well, and I think that that's a lot of it. It's breaking it down. Um, Many people are intimidated by the idea of writing a book, and I am too, and I get it. But every book is written paragraph by paragraph, and if you think about it, you could probably write a paragraph, maybe not a great paragraph, but in about 15 minutes to half an hour, and you add those up, and you have a book.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that I can help with. A lot of times people just sort of hand me a pile of stuff and say, make this have order. And fortunately, thank goodness, I'm pretty good at it. And so that's it. I think also you touched on something that's so important. Sometimes the coach's job is to just sort of respond with their judgment. Um, and I'm sure you probably have experienced this too. So people are like, is this, they're asking me, is this chapter good? I don't know. Is it ready? I don't know. I don't know where to put it. And so they're relying on my experience and wisdom to be sort of backup. And I helped one client. She she's a wonderful author and her work is great. But she had been struggling to complete her project. And so in that sense, I kind of stepped in and said, okay, let me see what you have. And so to have me say, wow, this is really good. I think we can tweak it and make it even a little bit better. That helped her, and she finished. And we all were so happy to
Yeah.
celebrate the conclusion of something like that. I really love Maria Blond's her sort of metaphor of birthing a book.
Mm.
So after she finished the first year of that, we gave her a book midwife, like, sash, like Miss America sash. And so I guess in a way I'm kind of a book midwife or a book OBGYN too. I've got the doctor.
Yeah.
So this helps. I'm going to rely back on you, Fran, because I am afraid that I meander. So please
No,
call me
no, no,
back.
no, no. It's beautiful. I love everything you're saying. Um, I guess one of the things that I always ask my guests is, what is the greatest gift that you have received through your passion journey, from your passion journey,
Wow.
or a few gifts? Because I know sometimes it's hard
That's
to
yeah, it's
pick
hard.
one.
It is hard. Um, well, heck, in for a penny, in for a pound. I'm just going to go full woo woo here. For me, one of the biggest rewards was working with Michael, because in order to serve Michael and be a witness and be a validator um, and supporter of other people, I had to work on my own self-confidence and worthiness issues. And so truly, I am healed through the
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
and being party to this um, is it elevates your own energy,
Yeah.
and it ups your own game. So as a professional psychic and as a coach, I definitely feel like the messenger gets blessings.
Yeah.
I always have felt that way, and so that's a lot of it. I also feel that the stories that people have shared are really important in reshaping the way that we view the world. You know, Shifting the perception from one of individual to one of community, reinforcing how human beings are connected, reinforcing how we are connected from our source, connected to our source of wisdom, inspiration, abundance. Um, these are all huge blessings, and as weird as it sounds, it caused me to sort of reevaluate the importance of the material world.
Mhm.
And to understand that the material world is less important maybe than I had thought it was. And so ultimately, I feel more free as a human
Mhm.
being, as an intuitive because of this route. It's a little
Yeah.
bit selfish, but I also am really I tremendously celebrate other people's successes. And um, there have been hard times in my life in the not too distant past where my life was going sucky, but I was so happy to be allowed to participate in someone else's celebration and their triumph and, completing their project and their success. Um,
Yeah.
so I really love that. I see myself as part of a team, and
Mhm.
I'm thrilled to be on the team. So when I serve, I think a lot of times clients think that editors are mean high school English teachers, or like the mean nun with a ruler, like, oh, your comma's in the wrong place. Ugh. Um, I'm I'm so not that person. Um, Rather than trying to make the text conform to something else, I try to really hear the client, especially because I'm privileged to communicate such personal and powerful and emotional journeys that, especially with that project where the mom had crossed over, to be invited into a family's grief, to be allowed to witness it, and especially, with several sons, adult men talking about grief and missing their mom. I can't tell you how it's almost breathtaking to me, the
Yeah.
fact that they would sit there and talk to a stranger. The fact that spirit said, "You'll be good for this. Go do it. Go talk to them." And that spirit spoke lovingly and kindly through me to them.
Mhm.
It's very moving. It's just it's such a I feel like it's such an honor and such a reward.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm here to serve. That
Mm.
I take my mission from the angels. The angels are here to serve. I work with the angels. I'm on Michael's team. I'm here to serve.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you.
So I feel like it's a huge amount of trust that's placed in me, and it it leaves me speechless sometimes.
Mm. Mm. Talk about pure passion and
Pure inspiration.
purpose.
Oh,
Purpose,
yeah.
inspiration. Purpose is a funny word because I think our purpose changes
Sure.
in
Yeah.
life. And I always think of purpose as just expanding your life, what in whatever way really
Yeah.
your soul calls you towards. So, it's beautiful. Thank you. Tell me a little bit about what you might be working on now.
Sure. Um, I do, in addition to working with my clients, I'm also actually a writing instructor online for University of Texas at Austin. So I do have that sort of more mundane job, which is also pleasurable and rewarding, but in a different way. Um, my personal project right now is about my own story. um, I chose to go in a non woo woo way because the angels and I agree that in order to help the most people, it's best that this not be new agey and not be spiritual, that it be based in more in research. So
Mhm.
I went through some things where my mother had a horrible near death experience. She fell in her apartment, broke her arm. She was stuck on the floor for 3 days. And so I became really concerned about her health. She had been diagnosed with a narcissistic personality disorder
Mhm.
long time ago. And so one of the things that my mom and I have fought about repeatedly was her lack of attention to her own safety. She refused to buy a cell phone. So she just had a regular landline. She didn't have any of those panic buttons or whatever, and she fell. And so this book project began out of that because I was trying to understand the connection between changes in cognitive ability, because we all know as people age, their brains change a little bit. Um, so I wanted to know how that would affect her narcissistic personality disorder and how it would express itself.
Mhm.
And I also realized that, she's over 80 now, and, we're to that part of her life where we're starting to face end of life issues like safe housing, medical issues, possible terminal illness, that kind of stuff. And so I became really interested in the interconnection between her emotional issues and those end of life issues. Um, and so when I started digging around in it even more, I realized that nobody had written on it,
Mm.
which seemed really silly to me because the baby boomers are getting to the age where they're approaching end of life issues. So statistically, more and more people are going to be facing these things. And so the beginning of this journey was really inspiring, and I was very driven. I had to understand what was happening. I
Yeah.
needed to know what was happening in her mind. And because of her illness, she's not able to tell me because she can't really articulate it. And so I started researching, and it was really fascinating. And I started to realize, for instance, that there's a whole continuum of self-centeredness that ranges from, somebody's having a bad day, they're sort of self-centered. It's a moment, it's fleeting, anybody can have it, all the way to the other end of a very, very severe malignant narcissist who is a sadist and is like actively trying to destroy people's lives. So it was fascinating to learn that not only are people whose parents were diagnosed with this, or a partner, um, or friend or whatever, that there was just, you know, nothing had been done about it. Nobody paid attention. It was, yeah. So it was something that I realized more and more people were going to need help with. So it sounds really depressing. It is kind of a heavy topic, but I do try to keep it light because that's how life is. It's full of dark and light.
Yeah.
And if you can't find the light, or you can't laugh about it or realize when you're being ridiculous, then you're missing part of the picture. That's the kind of stuff that can help you get through it.
Yeah. So are you writing a book about this, or are you creating some type of coaching program
The
or?
answer is yes. Yes to both. Um, with my book, yes, I am writing a book about it, but I do want to create support groups for survivors of narcissistic abuse, because I came to learn that one of the worst and most destructive parts of narcissism is that narcissists often keep their victims isolated from other people.
Mhm.
And a lot of times people don't believe us survivors of narcissistic abuse because it's hard to believe that somebody's parent could do such hurtful things.
And they're
Uh,
very manipulative.
yes, and so they seem like, the Sunday school teacher when they're out at the mall talking to strangers, but then when they're at home, they can be very, very cruel, and very hurtful. And so for me, and the research points to this, one of the ways you heal from narcissistic abuse is you share your story, you empower other people, you witness their struggles. So you deliberately say, I understand why this hurt you. And again, it ties back into me being part of the tribe of Michael. I'm the anti-bully. And so part
Mm.
of my role, and if you allow me to be a little, little fantastical here, I'm like a substitute for the angel who's sitting in the group saying, that wasn't right. That wasn't fair. I saw what happened to you. You don't deserve this. So that to be that kind of voice, to be a validating person, to validate other people's perspectives, it does help heal me, but it can help heal so many other people. And I've seen it be really transformative because recovering from this type of abuse is not an easy thing.
Yeah.
So that's where I am right now. And the writing is part of that because it's about helping to empower expression.
Yeah.
So setting up the groups is something that I've had in mind for a couple of years, and I still want to do it really badly. And I actually have someone who's going to help me with the groups, who is a
Oh, that's
licensed
great.
family therapist.
Mhm.
So that's that's all in the works. Right now, it's all about writing.
Yeah. Yeah. Step one.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, how can people contact you and find you who are interested perhaps in you as an editor or a coach? What's the best contact information?
I would direct them to my website, which is empoweryougroup.com, and U is a capital U.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if people sign up for my mailing list, I can send them the list of questions I talked about earlier that can help them to sort of, you know, brainstorm on their book project a little bit. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram if that's easier.
Yes, and we'll put it in the show notes as well, all of your
Okay.
social media handles.
Yeah, that's fine. My email is really easy. Also, to drzhenya@gmail.com. So, I love hearing about people's projects, and I offer the free consultation to see if people would like
Yeah,
to work together.
it's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Well, is there anything else you want to share before we say goodbye for today?
Well, thank you to you. I want to
Mhm.
share that. I really appreciate having a chance to speak with you. And thank you to everybody who listened this long.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think that you said so many valuable things that will resonate with people who, even if they're not closet writers,
Yes, exactly.
but perhaps they have something that they want to bring out into the world. And I think
Mhm.
what you shared was really inspiring. And I really thank you for your time and the energy that you're bringing to the world, because this world needs a lot of positive energy.
Yeah,
And we need people like you. So
for
thank
sure.
you.
Thank you. I just thought of one thing that I do want to say.
Sure.
A lot of people feel like because they don't have as much education as they would like, or maybe their best language isn't English, they might feel like they can't write. The truth is that you have to write for your audience. So if your audience has the same level of education that you do, you don't need to have
Mm,
degrees, right? You need to speak in a way that's clear for them. So I encourage people, if at all possible, to set those kinds of beliefs aside, um, because I think that spirit will guide your expression, and spirit will guide the reception of that expression
yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And I'm
And
happy to mediate
having
that.
you as a guide and mentor makes all the difference.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
it's
hard to do
my
things out
pleasure.
there on your own. I don't
Yeah,
know what you're building. Um, it's not as much fun,
yeah, that's true.
and it's very isolating, and it's very easy for our mindset to be clouded with, our nervous system to take over and
Hmm.
dysregulate. Um, we're human, and we need people to really shine the light, help us, really see our own beauty, our own gifts, and what we could add to the world. So,
Absolutely. And it's such a privilege to be able to do that and see that.
yeah,
So thank you so much for
thank you.
allowing me to come and speak with you today.
Oh, of course. Thank you for being here. Okay. See you soon. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Zhenya, for sharing your work with us, your inspiration, your creativity, and your passion. And as I said previously, if you're struggling or you're just thinking about writing a book and you need some organization skills and some support, you can get in touch with Zhenya. She provides free consultations for authors wanting to transform their writing. And I have all of her contact information on the show notes. She has a Facebook group called Empower You, website, Instagram, and you can even get her phone number on the show notes. So again, thank you so much, Zhenya. I really enjoyed speaking with you. And I feel like you're such a lovely, beautiful soul, and there's such a warmth coming from you and a calmness, and I know that people who are creating could certainly use that. So thanks again, and thanks to all the listeners. I just want to remind you to please share this podcast with anyone you feel would benefit from it. And also, I haven't mentioned in a while, you could subscribe to my email so you don't miss anything. And in return, I have a beautiful free gift. It's journal prompts on discovering your passion. So again, thank you so much to all my listeners and to Zhenya, and we will see you next time.